tell this, but we don't show prep. So, so he had no idea.
I just barely make it in.
I'm sure you can tell, but we don't show.
I mean, let's put the cards down on the table here.
Illustrious. Like Styles.
Miami Hurricanes, yeah. You know the name already. It's Mercy, ha ha. It's a 6-ring Kane show. Can't forget the name though. Got Jazz, Blue, Vision, DJ break the game code. Ain't no changing them, ain't no breaking them. Real Portland live from the Hard Rock Stadium. Ball 14 for the orange and green. We see the 6-ring champs. It's more than a dream. This is life on the field. Beyond 100 yards, a hurricane that's never still put a damage to your squad. The 6-ring Kane show. The 6-ring Kane show. The 6 Rings Kane show. You know.
What's wrong with us? Seriously.
What's wrong with us? We're Miami Hurricanes fans.
Welcome to the 6 Rings Kane Show, a show dedicated to Miami Hurricane sports, featuring the legendary Larry Bluestein, Jazz Santana, Vish, and Danny Gillette. Let's go Canes.
Hello, everyone. Vish here. Welcome to a special 6 Rings Kane show. Mike Berardino from South Bend Tribune, Gannett Sports Network, and TheInsider.com will be joining me in a second to talk about the big game on Sunday. But first, a word from our sponsor, U-Brake Wheel Fix. If you ever run over a pothole so hard your steering wheel shakes, are you constantly losing air in your tires? Well, there's chances are that you have a wheel issue, and U-Brake Wheel Fix is your solution. U-Brake Wheel Fix is Miami's premier wheel repair and restoration company. They have over 20 years of experience. They're located locally right here in North Miami. They do quick repairs. Most cases they can get you on the road that day, but if not, they'll get you a free loaner. If you're looking at your wheels and you're like, they work fine, but they look worn out, it doesn't look good, riding around, not happy with the way your wheels look, well, they can help with that. They do in-house powder coating, machining, and polishing. They will refinish and make it look like new. So contact Mark and his staff at 305-748-0112 and follow them on all socials at U-Brake Wheel Fix. And if you mention 5 reasons, you get 5.5% off your next repair. That's U-Brake Wheel Fix, powder coating, and wheel repair. 305-748-0112 or stop by at 1848 Northeast 143rd Street in North Miami. U-Brake Wheel Fix, powder coating, and wheel repair. All right, it's my pleasure to be joined by an illustrious sports journalist. He's been doing it since 1989, several stops in ACC country, including locally right here with the Sun Sentinel. Currently the beat writer covering Notre Dame for the South Bend Tribune, which, if you're not familiar with that, is part of the Gannett Media Network, USA Today. And you can also find him on ndinsider.com. Please welcome Mike Berardino to the show. Mike, thanks for joining me.
Thanps for having me. I finally made it to 5 reasons.
Yeah.
Even you can go back. Launch.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy to oblige and happy to have you here. Obviously, you cover Notre Dame, as we said, a big game on Sunday. So just kind of, we'll obviously be focused on Notre Dame for this interview, but just what are your overall kind of thoughts on this year's version of Notre Dame? How do they stack up to last year's, which obviously went to the championship game? And what do you think their ceiling is?
Well, the ceiling is to get right back where they were and win it. Potentially, there's some disruption across the college football landscape this year. A lot of new quarterbacks being broken in, and it's happening here too with C.J. Carr, Lloyd Carr's grandson, if you haven't heard, but also Tom Curtis's grandson, the longtime editor of Dolphin Digest, and a college football Hall of Famer himself. He gets to go back to South Florida, where Notre Dame played Penn State in January, and it was obviously a different environment there, but Notre Dame won that one. That was a great game, but it was not an orange out. It wasn't even a white out. It was just a neutral, largely split crowd. Notre Dame and Marcus Freeman going into his 4th year, still looking to end the drought. 1988, the last national championship here. And the athletic director, Pete Bavacqua, speaks about it openly at every opportunity. Marcus Freeman does not run from that, never has. The players speak of it. And, the way the college football playoff sets up now with 12, and if Notre Dame were to run the table this year, now a first round bye is sitting there for Notre Dame. I think the ceiling is just that, trying to end this drought.
Yeah, you mentioned 1988 around here, and doesn't get the same reaction, I think, as it does in
No.
It's still bitter feelings all these years later. You mentioned CJ Carr. That was the big story kind of in training camp, who would start, him or Kenny Minchie. Why do you think he ultimately won the job? What differentiated him from Minchie? And also, how do you think he'll handle that atmosphere you mentioned in his first start?
Well, the second part is to be determined. How loud will it be? How hard will it? This is a guy whose last game, a real game, he's played in the last 2 spring games, but the last real game he's played in was in high school against Bryce Underwood's high school team. He was a year behind him, and CJ's team, Saline, Michigan, lost 65-14. 3 interceptions, 9 sacks. He doesn't want that. But he's got a little bit better line in front of him now. He's got weapons, not just Jeremiyah Love, but throughout the offense, including some transfers. He'll lean on those. They will not. Notre Dame and Mike Denbrock, the offensive coordinator, well-traveled, formerly at LSU with Jaden Daniels. They will not ask CJ Carr to win this one for them out of the gate, or perhaps at all in the early part of the season, but just be the facilitator, the point guard. But he'll have to check them in and out of some plays, no doubt. They'll be on silent count. The whole clap cadence thing that they would prefer, that all the young players and quarterbacks these days seem to lean on, and that John Gruden mocks, I think rightfully. That's not going to work if it's as loud as they expect. He'll go under center, I think, a little bit more than Riley Leonard in short yardage situations, just for those purposes. And he's not as mobile, but he's not immobile. I think he'll have some ability, some escapability within the pocket to extend plays and keep him, but I don't think he'll be a run first weapon, a designed run kind of guy like Riley Leonard was this past year. So it kind of goes back to the 2023 capabilities of Sam Hartman, but nowhere near the experience, obviously, and nowhere near the pass first mentality. You got to use those backs. Jeremiyah Love and Jadarian Price is good a 1-2 combination as there's been in recent memory.
Yeah, you mentioned some former ACC quarterbacks that Notre Dame has picked up that are fans of. Riley Leonard.
Yes.
Did a number on the Canes a couple of years ago, quarterbacking. Very familiar with his dual threat ability. So you mentioned Jeremiyah Love. He's obviously, anytime anyone mentions Notre Dame these days, that's the first name that they mention. Just how good is he? And for those that maybe aren't as familiar with him, what kind of a back is he, and what is he going to bring to the table on Sunday?
He's really good. He doesn't need much of an opening. Anybody who's watched the college football playoff or some of those, Notre Dame's on every week, but he was scoring a touchdown a week last year. You kind of got a sense as the year went on, it was automatic that he'd get in the end zone at some point. He's a kind of back that is good in the pass game and the run game. Obviously, you can know that he's getting the ball, and still good luck getting them down. He breaks tackles at one of the highest rates in the country. He obviously enjoys this leaping thing. I don't know if we'll see as much of the leaping, standing defenders in a single bound. He did that a handful of times last year. It's pretty dangerous. And if they know it's his thing, then people will be waiting. I mean, you're kind of exposed in that moment. He got away with it last year, starting with Northern Illinois all the way through the Penn State game. But this is a guy who only got 4 touches in the national championship game, and that was a problem. And that was probably an indication of how much pain he was playing through in his knee. He had hurt his knee against USC last regular season game. He'd played through it, 98-yard touchdown against Indiana in the first playoff game, tweaks the knee against Georgia in the quarterfinals, has probably the best 2-yard run on the goal line at Hard Rock Stadium that you'll see in any stadium when he had to break, he basically had to beat 5 or 6 Penn State defenders on the goal line. He scored that himself on complete will with one good knee. So that's the kind of back he is. Explosive, long speed, can get the tough yards in the short yardage. But the other thing into his benefit, he was only averaging maybe 13, 14 touches most of last year. And that's where Jadarian Price and Aeneas Williams and maybe even this freshman Nolan James Jr. take some of the burden off of him. So they'll split Love out. They'll put him in the slot some. He's a weapon if all breaks down for CJ Carr in the screen game. He's just a dynamic player. It's the reason why he's considered top half of the first round potential, and that doesn't happen a lot for running backs anymore.
Yeah, and he's going to get some practice playing on Sunday this week.
Yes.
So that appears to be very much in his future as well. So you mentioned the running game overall, the offense. How do you view this offensive line this year, and how will they be able to protect Carr and open those lanes for Love and that stable of running backs to get through?
Well, they pride themselves on the offensive line around here. The Joe Moore Award, named after one of their most esteemed former offensive line coaches, but they're breaking in a new right guard. The other four at least have starts last year. In fact, I'll put it this way: when they went to Texas A&M a year ago, the offensive line was in some flux, and they took the field with 6 career starts among those 5 guys. This time on Sunday night, it'll be 52 career starts because Emil Wagner at right tackle went the distance last year, played nearly 1,000 offensive snaps. He's a rock. The center is Ashton Craig. He's back after going down with an ACL in week 3 last year. So some question marks there if he'll hold up. But, these days the ACL is pretty straightforward. So they're happy to have him back. Billy Schrouth is one of the team captains now, along with Wagner at left guard. And he largely went the distance last year, had tightrope surgery in the middle of the year. It's like, oh, so what? He came back in 4 weeks against Navy and went the distance. And at left tackle, it's Anthony Knapp, who played the first 15 games as a true freshman and did nothing but impress, played way beyond what the recruiting profile might have been. And he missed the final game with a tightrope surgery of his own, but he's back and fully healthy. So you go from 6 starts and question marks galore to 52. The right guard they're taking into the middle of the week, at least publicly, and it was going to be Charles Jagusa, but he is a hard luck guy, and he's still rehabbing from a broken humerus back in July 4th weekend. He was in Wyoming on a UTV, as they call it. I guess it was ATV forever. Now it's a utility terrain vehicle. And it did not go well for him. He's a 330-pound man. They need him back. He'll get back probably by midseason, I would think. But Sunday night, it's either Gerby Lambert, big guy from the Boston area, 335-pounder himself, or Sullivan Absher from North Carolina, Belmont, North Carolina, and he's a third-year guy. Neither guy's made a single start in a college game, so that right guard is one to watch.
Okay, yeah, it's good info. And yeah, a lot of experience there, which is obviously helpful for a freshman quarterback coming in. Other side of the ball, we thought we were going to see our old friend Al Golden coaching Notre Dame defense, but
close.
He went off to the Bengals, promoted up to the NFL. So Chris Ash, who's got a wealth of experience, comes in to replace him. How different should we expect this defense to be this year?
Well, it's going to be something to watch, no doubt. It certainly wasn't broken, so there's no need to fix. But of course, full off season for your opponent, starting with Miami, Texas A&M in week 2, which actually played Notre Dame last year. You're going to make some tweaks anyway to keep these people off balance. Some of the things we've been able to glean so far from conversations with the players, both in the spring and in August, and with Chris Ash. Although he's more guarded, I'd say, than Al Golden was with his public comments. Al was great to work with. I think Chris Ash will be too. A little more zone they have. This is a group that prides itself on man. Mike Mickens, the pass game defensive coordinator, his slogan is "Deny my man." They have T-shirts. Marcus Freeman wore one the other day on some social media outing with DMM. But they can still do that perhaps with more of a zone look to throw off opposing quarterbacks. Now, you're not going to confuse Carson Beck. That would be hard to imagine, but wouldn't shock if Notre Dame went to some zone, mixed it in, but still the primary approach when you have Leonard Moore at one corner, all preseason All-America sophomore, and you have Christian Gray at the other, and Alabama transfer Devontae Smith now in the slot. They get an excellent transfer to play the slot year after year here. Devontae Smith's the one this year. You're still going to be in a press quite a bit, and you're going to challenge the other team to get separation because it's hard to do against this group. They're also going to be splitting out the ends wider. They're going to flip their defensive ends. They still are using the Viper term, which I thought they had retired for guys like Jordan Botelho, Boubacar Traore, who played in the same high school program as Gerby Lambert. That had to be unpleasant for opponents. And, Josh Burnham, those guys are Junior Tui Halamaka. Those are the guys coming off the Viper edge with a little more ability to drop in pass coverage if necessary. But they want to make Chris Ash wants to make these ends interchangeable so that they don't have to worry about when the hash marks change and the boundaries here instead of there, that it's a problem and there's confusion. So you might see Bryce Young now dropping in some pass coverage, 6'7", 280 pounds. That's Bryant Young, Hall of Famer Bryant Young's son. He's really good. And they're also trying to break in some new defensive tackles because they sent Howard Cross III and Riley Mills into the NFL. So there's some turnover there, but they like the guys that have returned. Guys like Jason Onye, Gabriel Rubio, and Louisville transfer Jared Dawson. They have the numbers. They have a deep defensive line, and it's just a matter of these guys developing their own reputations in some cases or just staying healthy. Botelho's going to play. Jordan Botelho, another hard luck guy. Marcus Freeman telegraphing yesterday. We'll see how many snaps Jordan Botelho plays coming off offseason pec surgery. He also had blown out his patellar tendon against Purdue last year, but they say he's available. And the limited looks we get in practice here, only one full practice was open to the media. That was on July 31st when CJ Carr threw 3 interceptions, just 2 of them really his fault. After that, it's stretch, a period of stretch, which is really just taking roll, and 4 open 5-minute periods where they're just easing into it. And then we got to leave. And we saw that about 5 times. So we'll be as curious as the rest of the country about just what Notre Dame, how these tweaks are incorporated, especially on defense.
Yeah, I think that's the norm now. They're not.
Yeah.
they don't give us a lot of info. We got to kind of wait for the games to see how things actually play out. Just to wrap up here, I know we're time here, so just to wrap up. So you, as I mentioned in the lead-in, you've been in sports journalism since 1989. Do you still get, game like Sunday? It's a big game to start the season. Do you still get those big game vibes? And then also feel free to remind people where they can find all your work.
All right, I'll do the second part first, I guess. Still on Twitter, and that's at Mike Berardino, and you see it spelled right there. I typed it in okay, no typos. You can go to ndinsider.com, which is our Notre Dame page within South Bend Tribune. You can go to southbendtribune.com, and we're constantly running specials, as all the Gannett properties are. We want people to read it. Do I get the big game? Yes, absolutely. And the way I come at it, Vish, it doesn't matter what event. I've been so blessed in my career. I'm just so thankful to still be doing it. It's, this is an industry that's lost 90% of its positions in some cases, certainly 70 to 80% across the board over the last 2 decades. So I feel blessed to be part of a legacy media group, if you want to call it that. People who can make this their daily profession when there's been that much turnover, that much attrition. But what I always say is I've always wanted to be at the epicenter of the sports world as often as possible. Now, when you cover Notre Dame, there's going to be a number of times throughout the year, good or bad, just with that schedule, where the whole country's watching that game primarily. And Sunday night, that's the only game in town. So yes, there will be some excitement, just the curiosity, right? That's like any fan, anybody in the media, what you guys do. Everybody who talks about it, thinks about it, tries to anticipate, tries to break it down. How's it going to play out? You try to imagine, but you really don't know till the ball is kicked. And I do know that that's a good place to cover a game. And I'm looking forward to hearing and seeing the environment.
All right. Well, that about covers it. Again, that game is 7:30 at Hard Rock Stadium on Sunday. Mike, thank you very much for joining me. Don't be a stranger.
All right. Thank you, Vish.
Thanks again to Mike Berardino for joining me to preview the big game on Sunday between Miami and Notre Dame. Make sure you head out to the Rock, 7:30 on Sunday. Wear orange. It is an orange out, and stay tuned to our network. We have a bunch of coverage coming your way Monday. First of all, Buckets, 7 p.m. 2 women's basketball with standouts, Gal Raviv and Jessica Peterson will be joining us. That's at 7 p.m. Then right after that, 8:30, Six Rings Kane Show, our weekly slot. We'll be breaking down Miami, Notre Dame. Again, head out to the Rock, 7:30. Wear orange. Go Canes.
The Six Ring Kane Show. Yeah. The Six Ring Kane Show. Yeah. The Six Rings Kane Show. You know.